All right, hello everybody, and welcome again. We're here with another one of Girls in Sports Alberta's mentors, Lauren Kroetsch. She is a current volleyball player at the King's University for the Eagles in her last year coming up. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Dia, for having me today. I'm so thankful that you've set up this amazing program and I can talk to all these young athletes. And yeah, it's a great opportunity. Thanks.
Awesome. Well, we're excited to get to know you and kind of share your story. So let's begin. So I guess the first question I have is let's hear your story. I've heard it before, but I'd love to share it with everybody else. So let's start from like that's the bottom up, where you started and how you got here.
Yeah, for sure. So I grew up in a small town called Provost, Alberta. There's very few people there. So my entire life, I grew up playing every single sport. I was also in music and I was into dirt biking and mudding and I was into sports. So you name it and I did it. But I ended up playing softball, badminton, track, handball, you name it. But I ended up really focusing more on volleyball, track, and softball. So as I was growing up, I always had my older mentor cousin to look up to, and she always inspired me to work hard. And she actually also went to the King's University and she played for the university team. So I was always in awe of her, and she was my biggest role model. So I kind of wanted to be like her, and hey, I made it. So that was really cool. But anyways, growing up in a small town, I always found I had to drive everywhere to get more opportunity and to advance my skills. So I was constantly on the road and I was constantly doing volleyball camps and trying to get as much knowledge as I possibly could. So over my years, in my junior high years, I focused on multiple different sports, but then as I reached senior high, I ended up focusing solely on volleyball and track and softball. And then I made my final decision in my grade 12 year to go into volleyball, which was an awesome decision. And then I went to the King's University and I've been playing for 4 years now. I'm going into my fifth year. And in our second year, my second year, we actually ended up going to provincials. We got provincial gold at the ACAC championship, and we ended up going to nationals, and we were awarded a silver medal that year. And following year in my third year, we ended up getting a bronze medal at the ACAC championship again. And this past season, of course, we've had COVID, but there's been so much knowledge and skills that we've all worked on and developed, and every single year was a different year for me and a learning curve, and it was just an amazing experience. Yeah, I love my hometown roots, let's just say that.
On that note, before you get to our next question, the small town. I know I grew up in a small town, Onaway, very small town, and sometimes opportunity in small towns are lacking. And I've seen you play, and you're a really good player. How did you develop? How did you like with those barriers of being a small town with travel? Like, what did you do to kind of overcome that and get to where you are and being a university player?
Yeah, that's a great question, Dia. So I ended up traveling lots, like I said, for volleyball camps and any opportunity I had in my area. There's always small volleyball camps, or my club team would try and bring in university teams or small club teams to come in just to run camps with these younger athletes. So I always would look for those opportunities and I would go to every camp possible. And I would always tell my mom too. I would tell her my goals. And I think that's extremely important as a young athlete, is having those goals, having your goals in your head. What do you want to do? Because as a small town athlete, I always thought, oh, well, I'm not going to be as good as the people in the city because they have so much opportunity compared to me. But instead of letting that stick in my head, I stuck to my goals and I wrote in a journal, and I every single night I had a timer in the summer and I would go outside and I play volleyball. Just simple reps, and it's ball control I worked on, and it's anything you can do in your backyard, even with your parents. It's sometimes a good way to just bond with your parents or your family members, and goofing around sometimes with volleyball, but it's also videoing yourself. So that's what I would do growing up. I would video myself and give myself feedback and technique, and I'd watch YouTube and I would watch videos on volleyball on how to improve. And
Mhm.
the chances I did get to travel, thankfully, my parents were so amazing and they took me everywhere just for volleyball and they knew my passion. So I'm very thankful for them.
Mhm.
And they would drive me up to Edmonton for personal training. So I would do that through Aspire. And every summer, I'd also join the Pandas Volleyball Club, or not club, sorry, the camps.
Yeah.
And I would join that and work with
Mhm.
that. So I had so many great opportunities
Mhm.
to do what I did, but I had to be creative, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I love the goal setting as well too. I think it's really important that people, even if you feel like you're stuck in a small town, there's always putting your goals on paper is really nice way to kind of motivate you to do other things and find other opportunities. That's really cool. So on that note, what about other barriers? Is there any other significant barriers that you had to overcome as an athlete?
Yeah, most definitely. So in my high school years, I actually was part of Team Alberta for a couple years, and I was one of the small town girls, and it was such an amazing experience. But in that time frame, I really learned, okay, yes, my skills are a little behind due to lack of training opportunity, but I also learned how to develop mentally as an athlete, and that was huge for me because in my small hometown, I felt, I was strong and I was a strong player. But once you get to the bigger city, you see all these great athletes and it's just higher competition, and especially Team Alberta. So it was learning from those other girls how they handle pressure. And even the coaches, such great coaches, amazing opportunity. And they help you set up situations in your training on how to overcome those mental barriers. So, for example, for me coming into Team Alberta, I was always comparing myself. I was always comparing myself to that athlete. And that ended up hindering my performance so much. And even as I got into university, my first year of university, it was kind of the same thing, but not really. But I was always comparing and always in competition when really I came to the conclusion that I can never be another player. Like, for example, Dia, if you were on my team and I was trying to always compare, oh, Dia does this so good and she does this so good,
Mhm.
I will never be Dia because I'm Lauren. So I need to focus on what I can bring.
Mhm.
Maybe Dia can T line a ball as hard as she could, and maybe I'm more of a shots player. So over the years, I learned to develop confidence in who I was as a player instead of always turning to the next guy. Oh, well, they can do that. Well, yeah, but you can do this.
Mhm.
So you all have strengths and weaknesses in your own place, and you just have to learn when you need to bring those out. And
Mhm.
it's a team sport. You want all these balances and all this creativity and all these strengths on your team because by having that, you're going to have a very in depth team.
Mhm.
So it's so important as a young athlete. I highly emphasize working on your mental game,
Mhm.
working on your mental game, especially in women's sport.
Mhm.
So my advice is journal, journal through things,
Mhm.
talk to coaches, talk to other players, talk to older players. I love this mentorship program, not just because I'm a part of it, but because it is, I wish I had this opportunity as a young athlete to talk to these older mentors.
Mhm.
So I really emphasize for girls to reach out to other people, talk about your goals. It's not it's not scary. Once you have your goals set, you say them out loud, you write them down, they're real.
Mhm.
And you'll do everything in your power to get them.
Mhm.
And your mentors and the people around you will help support you. And
Mhm.
it's okay. Your thoughts that you have in a sport, totally normal. And I guarantee the mentors you talk to or the athletes, the old athletes you talk to or the coaches, they have all had similar thoughts to you and have been through this development program or have been through just a roller coaster of athletics. So
Yeah.
my my suggestion is be a student of whatever game you play. Be a student. And that's what my coach Grace always says to us, be a
Yeah.
student.
So, how did you overcome that kind of? I'm assuming it was probably nerve-wracking to talk to a coach or an older player that you looked up to. So, how did you kind of overcome that step to kind of just kind of take a deep breath and do it? Like, what did you do to prep yourself on that?
Yeah, so of course, when you're talking to someone about these more vulnerable topics about how you think and what you're thinking when you play, definitely started off with more basic questions with your mentor until you or you're another athlete before you start building into those deeper questions. Like
Mhm.
ask ask your mentor, ask your coach, how did you overcome this when you were an
Mhm.
athlete? Or if an athlete felt nervous being subbed into a game, what would you do to help alleviate that stress?
Mhm.
And kind of just taking the weight off, making it less personal. But
Mhm.
as you start to build that relationship with the mentor or with your coach, and you're becoming more comfortable and less nervous, of course, then you start diving into the deeper things. Like as
Mhm.
soon as as soon as I get back to the serving line, I think in my head, oh my gosh, all these people are staring at me.
Yeah.
What would you suggest to me, Dia? And that's what I
Mhm.
would ask if once our relationship starts building. So
Mhm.
that's kind of what I suggest.
That's awesome. I know you talked about this, but anything else you want to say to young athletes? You know, I love the journaling part. It's a huge thing about building confidence, and goal setting is a huge thing. Is there anything else that you want to say to young athletes, especially during this time? Sports just got canceled again. So, is there anything you want to say to young athletes kind of persevere through this time of COVID?
Yes, for sure. My first thing is love the game that you play. Don't overtrain yourself so hard that you start to lose the love of the game. Love the game that you play. Train hard, but have fun.
Mhm.
Have fun playing serious whatever you play. So
Mhm.
my coach says to me, have fun playing serious volleyball,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So my suggestion is to young athletes, keep training, keep working hard, work on those small nitpicky things that your coaches say. Yes, it's going to seem like you're going backwards. If you have a great swing or whatever you're working on in your sport and your coach tells you to alter something about it, it may feel like you don't even know how to hit a volleyball anymore or even pass a volleyball sometimes. But believe me, those are great steps. You have to start, break it down, and then over time it'll build back up. And you will be that much better of a player as the years progress. And I highly suggest that. My second piece of advice is don't be afraid to be competitive. Do not be afraid to let out that competitive side and to sweat hard and to really give it your all.
Mhm.
Do not be afraid to do that because that is what I found sets a lot of athletes apart. I have a very high competitive drive in everything I do, and sometimes it can be problematic, like in board games. Like I should maybe a bit. But I highly recommend for young athletes, you see your friends as soon as you start getting into junior high or past elementary, your friends stop playing sports as much or trying so hard because it might not seem cool. But I really recommend work hard at sports. If you love the sport, keep doing it because it brings you happiness, it brings you joy.
Mhm.
It's part of you.
Mhm.
Who cares what other people think, right? So that's my little piece of
Absolutely.
advice.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And for my viewers, just a heads up, my son, that cooing in the background was my son. So he likes to say things about this too. So just a heads up on that. But awesome. Well, thank you so much. Last little comments for the mentorship program. Anything that you like to say about the program and why you joined and what you're looking forward to?
Yeah, so I absolutely love this program, Dia, and thank you so much for putting this together for young athletes. I think this is such a great opportunity for young athletes to reach out to some professionals or university players, ex players, whatever. It just enhances their knowledge. It gives them just a big book, a big textbook for them to access, but it's not reading. It's like way better than reading. I like reading. But talking is fun too. It's just a fabulous program, and I highly recommend to every young athlete. And you have a wide variety of athletes, which is remarkable, Dia. Like
Yeah.
you have whatever choice you want and whatever story links up. And
Mm.
I'm actually really excited to get to know some of the other mentors myself. And I think this program I would have wanted as a young athlete. I would have reached out. So the reason why I joined was to give back to the athletes, and especially the ones that are like me and eager to know the game better or build their knowledge and passion. So
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Lauren. And this program obviously is a great opportunity. Sports have stopped, so this is a great opportunity to get to know Lauren a little bit more. Reach out to her. There's two options. There's email, or we're starting to look at individual sessions as well too, and that's more to come later on in the next coming weeks. So thank you so much again, Lauren, and I look forward to having you connect with athletes hopefully during the summer. See you later.
yeah. Thanks, Dia. Bye.
Bye.